you said boom, I was like, did you press start? Did boom mean start? Boom did not mean start. I clicked start. So we're good to go. We're almost good to go. No. Jared's clinking bottles. Gets ready to start. New Warriors. Come out to play. Everybody, hello. Welcome to Come Out to Play, a New Warriors podcast. Happy you could join us on this Tuesday night. Is this the latest possible day that a Tuesday can be? A second Tuesday can be? It has to be,
Tuesday,
right?
On the 14th. Yeah, that would be it. Yeah.
Cannot get any later than this. So, yeah, happy that you're here to join us. Our fingers crossed, hopes and dreams are that Mr. Fabian Nicieza himself will be coming and representing us. I'm sort of looking at the phone back and forth on standby, but fear not, ladies and gentlemen, we still have a show to put on one way or the other. Oh, Jared switched it up.
I just remembered I got to lean this way for when it's 25th episode. I'm starting to figure out how it works.
Man, eventually we're going to get this. There are 75 episodes, or excuse me, issues of the first run. So we got to get this figured out quick. You believe this? 1/3 of the way through already?
I'll tell you what, it's gone by fast. It has gone by fast.
It has gone by fast, like rapid speed. So, hey, well, I have some stuff written on. Oh my goodness.
Here we go.
Here we go. Gonna go ahead and add to the stream.
There we go. We there?
Hello there. How are you doing there, sir?
Doing good. Sorry if I'm a little bit late.
It's okay. You haven't heard the first 3 minutes or so before, so like we definitely weren't saying bad words about you or anything.
I'm glad. I'm trying to get this in the camera show. Wait a second. I don't like my lighting at all. I'm gonna move. Hold on a second.
Go for it.
That's all right. While he's moving, I'm gonna just welcome Tony Pennington, Jason Lady, Auburn Elvis, Scott, AU Kathy, Trey Black. I'm sure there's probably more. I'm writing. Oh, the Dame Deborah Smith is here.
The Dame. Jared, I was talking to the Dame earlier, and she said that she was worried about showing up to the shows because she thought that the tempo like changed and that like we would act different. And like, Mom, no. No, of course not. We love to have you, and we love to have Mr. Nicieza here on the show. I did see the omnibus that you were flexing there.
I was trying to get it in the shop, but I was worried that it would fall off the back of the couch and crush my head.
Just the whole thing called.
I just moved it over here. As much as I love these things, I hate these things. They are impossible to read.
Man, I do not have the omnibus, but of course I'm in the same chat that you are on Facebook, the New Warriors Talk. I am still old school and have the original issues in hand. So,
I have them all down in the basement, but it's too much of a hassle to go get them.
No, I understand. I absolutely understand. So, like, first of all, like, of course, we told people that you were going to be on the show and just want to formally say welcome. And as I told you, I was going to ask you some questions to start out with, but I should probably give you a proper introduction, right? I mean, of course, I wrote all of this down so I wouldn't mess it up. Let's see. He is the co-creator of Deadpool. He was a writer on X-Men and X-Force, Nomad, Cyforce from the New Universe. I really looked stuff up. And, of course, the New Warriors. He is Fabian Nicieza. And I have a few questions for you if you don't mind answering them, sir.
I don't mind hearing the questions.
None too bad, I would imagine. Actually, the first one is not a question, it's a comment. I was curious. I collect comic books, as you might imagine, and I have almost 15,000 comic books. And so I was like, I know I have had Fabian in my comic book collection. But like, where does he rank on my list of writers? Like, as far as issues created, and you're fifth. You are
No,
fifth.
I should be 27th.
I would not BS you. You're behind Brian Michael Bendis, Peter David, Jeff Johns, and Mark Waid. And as we know, Brian Michael Bendis turns 2 issues into 12. So
that's pretty good company. I'll take that company. I don't believe I belong above, I don't know, Stan Lee and Roy Thomas and Steve Englehart and Alan Moore and Frank Miller and Walt Simonson and Chris Claremont.
Yeah, man.
Like, everybody's got a budget, Fabian.
I hear you. That's why I put myself at 27, because I could probably easily rattle 26 other names before I even come close to getting to me. By the way, I will get to myself eventually, but I want to think there'd be 26 ahead of me.
Well, understand, I started creating. I started collecting comic books in late 1980s, going into the 1990s. So, like, I mean, I wouldn't have been around for those Stan Lees to start with. So, oh yeah, I wish I could get them now though.
I started in 1967, so I was exposed to all of the Marvel Silver Age stuff at a pretty young age. But really, I'm a child of the 70s more than anything. Like, for me, any and all comic book reading, the most emotionally connected part is usually when you're a teenager, especially as regards superhero comics. So for me, my teenage years were really the 70s. So I'm most emotionally connected to all that stuff.
Yeah, understood. And I mean, legendary times. Obviously, I have started a quest myself to pick up all the Amazing Spider-Man comic books. Spidey is my dude. And like, and we've covered it on our own podcast, Longbox Crusade. And yeah, I mean, just seeing the artwork and going back and seeing like creators like Sal Buscema, Ross Andrew, like just legendary artists, legendary writers and creators. It was truly, even though they called it Silver Age of comics, it was a golden age. It truly was.
Try to imagine how you're feeling and think about the fact that I got to work every single day with John Romita. So it was like, for a kid growing up where John Romita was the Spider-Man artist that I grew up on, that was, just phenomenal for me to have that opportunity to work with him in the office on a daily basis, when I was on staff at Marvel. So yeah, it's pretty cool. There are some creators who you almost are disappointed after having met them, and there are some who more than live up to the hopes and expectations you had, and I gotta tell you, John Romita was certainly one of them.
Cool. Now, one of the creators that you work with was Tom DeFalco, clearly, because Tom DeFalco is the one who started.
Tom sucks.
He started the New Warriors, like in, I believe,
Thor 411, he flipped through a Marvel Universe handbook, the bastard. Folks, just so you know at home, though, just so you know, guys, I'm having lunch with Tom in about 3 weeks. So
how did you wind up getting handed off the New Warriors from Tom?
Well, we in the office we heard that Tom and Ron had created a Bible for, at that time, a series in development called The Young Warriors. As Marvel's advertising manager, I was there every single day in the office working, so I knew a lot of stuff that was in development and percolation. I was privy to conversations in people's offices and having lunches with them and stuff like that about projects they wanted to do or wanted to develop. So I knew that Tom and Mark Grunwald, the executive editor, wanted a Teen Titans analog for Marvel, because we did not have that. We had New Mutants, but that didn't really count because they were not really the Teen Titans. So Tom and Mark decided that we should just develop a Teen Titans analog. And so Tom and Ron went, talked about it, creatively kibitzed like they did together, because they were friends and a good creative team. And I joke about flipping through the Marvel Universe handbook, but that's pretty much what it amounted to, because they had to identify characters we had available in existence who who were not affiliated to existing families of titles. So you couldn't use a character that was affiliated necessarily tied into Avengers or Spider-Man or certainly the X books. So we couldn't steal any new mutants for the young warriors idea. So they identified a bunch of them, and then they created one. They created Night Thrasher to be the leader, and it was the Batman / Robin analog in a way. And we knew there was a proposal. Not a proposal so much as a Bible, because Tom wasn't going to write it. He didn't want to write it, and Ron wasn't going to draw it. They were both working on Thor at the time. I found out about the Bible. I asked if I could have an opportunity to pitch. Mark and Tom both told me that they were going to ask me to pitch, but the book was being assigned an editor, and it was that editor's responsibility to choose the creative team. And Tom and Mark did not want to influence that, and I understood that because we just come off of a lot of editorial issues internally with Jim Shooter leaving. And I think Tom and Mark wanted to try to get the fingers out of the pies for some of the editors. So they were going to assign an editor to edit the book, and they were going to let that editor solicit proposals and then make a decision. But they were going to tell that editor, whoever it was going to be, that they would like to see me do a proposal. Not guarantee getting the book, but at least get a chance at it. The editor was assigned as Danny Fingeroth, who was just returning on staff after having been off staff for a few years, and he was reluctant to accept a pitch from me. Let's put it that way, both because I was a pretty young writer, and also because he had been fired off Cyforce in order for me to get the monthly book. Not that I had anything to do with that, but that was a Jim Shooter decision. But Danny had been writing Cyforce when I took over. So there's always that discomfort.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's all good. It was all
Cyforce coup. You didn't know that?
It was the great Cyforce coup of 1987. You didn't hear about that? It made the cover of Comics Journal. So Danny, more than anything, Danny wanted either creators he was comfortable with or he knew, or creators he thought would draw attention to the book, because he was coming back on staff. He'd been fired from staff previously, so understandably he wanted to make some solid, smart decisions, not necessarily safe decisions, but just solid decisions that can't be questioned or second guessed after the fact. If you hire Roger Stern to write your monthly book, and it doesn't succeed, or it's not that good, less people are going to question you because you hired a well-established, well-known, and well-regarded professional. But if you hire Fabian Nicieza, whose name we can't even pronounce, who has 16 issues of Cyforce under his belt, and that title was given to him, it wasn't really earned, then if it doesn't come out well, your editorial decisions can be questioned. So either way, I put in a proposal. By then the book was being called New Warriors. I put in a proposal. I disregarded a lot of what Tom had written in his Bible because I didn't agree with a lot of it, and that was fine. It's my choice to try to buck that and then risk getting or not getting the book. And it took Danny about 6 months to make a decision. It was the most excruciating 6 months of my life, I think, creatively, because I really wanted the book. And every week a decision was going to come, and every week a decision didn't come. First off, I was one of the first people to get their proposals in, so understandably, I was way ahead of the pack. So take that 6 months, I said, and joke about it. Cut 2 months off of that, because that's how long it took all the 4 or 5 writers he asked for pitches to deliver their work. So for 4 months after all the pitches were in, I kept waiting for a decision. And I think it might have almost been through attrition that I ended up getting the book, because either no one else was giving them proposals that were knocking the socks off, and certainly no one else was showing the level of interest and enthusiasm in writing that book. I wanted it really, really badly, because I knew that I could make it work. I knew it. And I knew that me and Mark Bagley together would really do something with it, because both of us were coming from the same place. We were both raw and young and hungry. Mark wasn't that young, but he started really late, He won the
Yeah.
Marvel Tryout book contest. He was already in his mid-30s, I think, by then. I was in my late 20s. Did I say mid-30s? I think Mark might have been in his mid-60s. I don't know. He's like 112 now. So, but he's still penciling away, baby. He's drawing right now. So finally, Danny offered me the book, and of course, I accepted it. And we hit the ground running. We had 6 issues finished in the drawer before the first issue ever even came out. So in the offices, everyone had a feeling that this thing was coming out better than anyone ever expected, because it was a running joke in the offices. There were a lot of people who thought it was going to be really bad and stupid. Their first 2 appearances in Thor, their first appearances in those 2 Thor issues are very Tom and Ron, which is great, but not necessarily for younger characters that you're trying to introduce in a fully well-rounded way. It's a little bit more of a Stan Lee hyperbolic surface skim of the rock, which I enjoy a lot as a reader, but not necessarily for those kinds of characters who if you're going to call them the heroes for the 90s, they shouldn't look like the heroes from 1966,
No, I got you.
So I wanted to. I knew that we would be able to deliver something to it that it needed, and quite honestly, I think we did. I'm to this day, I can be pretty non-humble about it, because the book was incredibly successful for what their projections and expectations were. The book almost doubled in sales in the direct market between its first issue and its 12th issue. The book was in Marvel's top 25 for the first 3-4 years of its existence. So I was pretty happy with what we ended up doing.
Now I have one other question to ask. I see that there have been several comments.
Keep it up with them.
That
Just throw it to me when you're ready for them.
Yeah, I'm going to ask one more of mine, and then I gotta let the listening audience have their say and ask the questions too. And the other question I was going to ask, because it segues directly into what you just finished with. I also read that the first 25 issues of the New Warriors that you wrote, that you consider that basically your magnum opus, your greatest creation that you made. And let's see, can you talk about why that is? Why do you feel that is, out of all the stuff?
I don't necessarily feel that way just about the first 25 issues. I actually pretty honestly feel that way about the entire 53 issues I wrote. To this day, it's still the thing I'm most proud of, and not necessarily just from the quality of the work per se, but I'm most proud of it because it was my first mainstream Marvel monthly superhero title. It succeeded way beyond the expectations that anyone had in the offices, way beyond what retailers expected, and quite frankly, way beyond what most of the audience might have expected. It resonated really strongly with an audience ages like 10 to 15, which is exactly what we wanted. And to this day, the readers who talk to me about it at conventions and things like that, there's clearly and obviously a stronger emotional connection between us and between the work and us, meaning myself and the readers, than there is for almost any of my other work. The only thing that I can even say comes close to that is probably Nomad and Red Robin. The Nomad book really resonated with a very specific kind of reader, even though its sales were never that strong. The readership it had was very loyal to that kind of story and those kinds of messages in the book. And the readers for Robin and Red Robin are just severe Tim Drake fans who have been pummeled and abused for the last 10-15 years as readers. So my run on Robin and Red Robin with Tim Drake resonates with them because they felt it was one of the last times the character was truly respected as a character. But again, to this day, New Warriors is still the connection I have with readers because we all understood that we were part of a smaller club. It wasn't a tiny club by any means. When your book is selling 250,000 copies, that's not tiny, but it wasn't an X-Men book. It wasn't a Superman book or whatever. It wasn't in Marvel's top 5 or top 10, but it was right up there. And the readers who read it understood that they were reading something that was almost Clubhouse Click. It was kind of cool for us because we knew Other people didn't know. Other people put it down. Other people derided it. Whatever. We could shrug our shoulders and laugh at them because we knew that we were doing something fun and we were having a good time doing it, and readers were enjoying it.
All right, we have. I keep seeing questions stream by. Jarrod, go for it. I know you started a few.
Yeah, I did. I've got them all queued up. We'll start with Scott. So, if you could have snagged an original member from the New Mutants to put on your team, who would you have picked?
If I could snag someone from the original New Mutants for my team, I never even thought of that once ever.
Just say Cannonball. We can move on.
I wasn't a big fan of the New Mutants as a reader. I was a big fan of the characters when I wrote them, but I wasn't a big fan when I read them. It's probably somebody whose powers were a little offbeat. But no, it's replicated. I was going to say Magma, but she's replicated in some ways by other characters on the team. Maybe what's her name? Karma. Was that her name? She had so many different names.
Yep.
Right.
The one who could project her mind into other people's bodies. That would have been an interesting power set. I see. Again, you got to understand, as a writer, I'm not thinking about which New Mutant is my favorite character because that was Cannonball. I'm thinking about which character works best within the team fit that I have. So you're asking me to plug a new mutant into my existing New Warriors. So I'm trying to make it fit within that context. I like Magma the most from the unexplored potential combined with the power set, but her power is replicated in some ways by someone like Firestar, so it's just not worth it.
That makes total sense.
Plus, like she didn't she draw lava up from the ground or something? There's not lava underground everywhere. It's like, where the hell is she getting this lava?
You got to
from?
go pretty deep for that.
That's why later on they had so many like little pouches. That's where she kept her lava, in the pouches.
Now, I hate to use this phrase. Delvin will understand, but Auburn Elvis asked a good question. All right, so here's this question. We've talked a lot, especially in the very early issues. It seemed like there was a concerted effort to get every member of the team on those early covers. Like all those early covers, it was like, get the whole team on there. Was that just happenstance, or was that something that Marvel was like, hey, when you have a new book, we gotta keep putting the team on there until everyone gets comfortable with these characters?
You know what? I think it was probably more Danny than anything else. I know that I wasn't happy with a lot of our early covers because I thought they were too crowded and too busy. There was always way too much going on, and I'm because of my advertising manager background and my desire for a bold, clean, strong image, I tend to lean towards simpler covers that make a stronger statement and stand out on a rack, because otherwise everything just becomes a glop of color and ink lines, when you're looking at a newsstand rack or a comic book direct market rack from 20 feet away, the single image with the bold colors usually is what stands out much more than the multiple figures smaller on a cover with multiple colors all over the place. And Danny and I have very different editorial sensibilities, which is one reason probably why the book was so damn good, because we fought tooth and nail about so much, and we ended up always finding the right path to accommodate his conservatism with my extremism, and that really ended up working pretty well for us. It led to some incredibly uncomfortable arguments, but it worked out really, really well for the book. And Danny, we always joke that Danny, there was never an inch of cover space open that Danny couldn't find a place for a caption. and if you just, and that was a joke in the offices too. We joked about that internally. Like if there was an inch of space on your cover, Danny would throw a caption on it on his books. And that's okay, because every editor has to have their own editorial sensibility, and Danny did a really good job. His books were really successful, and he worked his ass off. So if that's his thing, that's fine. I'm a writer on the book. I understand my responsibility and my place. I'm going to fight tooth and nail for things I believe in, for the characters and for the story. But there are certain places where you have to take a step back and say, that's their job. That's the editor's job. That's also their livelihood, that they're responsible for the book, not you. That ultimately they're the ones who get fired if the book doesn't succeed. Of course, the writer can get fired by the editor, et cetera, but it's still, I was an editor too, so I understood the responsibilities that entails. So I had no qualms at all about stepping over the line and fighting like crazy, but I'd always take a step back on my side of the line when the time came. And if you notice in the second year, that changed, that philosophy changed. We had several simpler, stronger, bolder covers that didn't have all the characters on it, and part of it was just Danny becoming comfortable that the book was successful, and Mark wanting to do some covers that were just a little cleaner and simpler. And that combination, Danny trusting Mark and trusting us and trusting himself, made you have an opportunity for a variety of covers. We had the Ben Grimm and Nova cover.
Love it.
We had the folding circle cover that was completely not what you'd expect that the book was delivering. We had the issue 18 cover where Dwayne's holding cord over the rooftop. I don't think there was anyone else on that cover, just the two of them, right? Yeah. So if you take a look at the second year, we definitely started to loosen that up quite a bit.
Excellent. We got a good question from Jason Lady in the chat, and it was kind of echoed by Jim Meal as well. Jason asked, did you lobby to get Rage on the team, or you asked to incorporate him? And then Jim Meal also included Darkhawk. So like Darkhawk and Rage, kind of cool later additions. Was that something you asked for, or something that was sort of pushed in your direction?
No, I knew Danny had launched Darkhawk at that point, and I knew that I wanted to use him both to help promote Darkhawk. And because I knew I had a storyline coming up that was going to bifurcate the team, so I needed to have more characters available to me. And I thought Darkhawk would be a good choice. Danny never pushed him on me, but he also certainly didn't have a problem with him guest starring in the book. Rage was me offering immediately to take him when Larry Hama was no longer going to be writing Avengers, and I knew Bob Harris didn't want to use Rage. So because I'm in the office, I'm privy to all of this stuff, and I knew that Bob didn't like Rage, and I like Rage a lot. So I quickly jumped in and said I'd be happy to take him, and everyone said okay, great, and that was it. So there was no issue about it. It made for a very seamless transition, I believe, from the revelations of what was told about him in the Avengers to him sliding right over to the New Warriors. It made total sense that the Avengers, once they find out that he's actually a 13-year-old kid, can't have him on their roster. It's illegal. I think he's child labor or something. So having him slide over to the New Warriors was fine, because the Avengers obviously had no qualm about underage teenagers.
You can only be an Avenger on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school for a half hour.
Exactly. Yeah. And Rage was like, "F that, man! I'm gonna go tear down a building." So I was okay with it. Part of it was my plan originally. Long-term plan was to have enough of a character draw that I could have a second spin-off book. And obviously I planned towards that end with things like introducing Turbo, and then the entire storyline leading up to issue 50, where we had so many New Warriors. But I wanted originally to spin a second title off after issue 50, but the industry's declining sales, not just New Warriors declining sales, it led us to decide mutually, all of us, that it wasn't a good idea to launch a spin-off book. Although when I originally had the idea, which was sometime in the second year of the book's run, everyone had no problem with that thinking. It just, by the time we got to it didn't make sense.
Keep in mind, Fabian, Jarrod has not read these. He's reading these for the first time. That's the appeal of the show is I'm the one who's gone through the entire volume. I picked it up off the rack as it was being developed, and Jarrod is coming along for this ride with me. So this was his first time through reading the first 25.
Well, then I apologize, Jarrod. Spoiler alert: Rosebud was the sled.
Okay? Oh my god! As long as Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker,
I got to be honest with you. I don't really cater to spoiler alerts on 30-year-old.
No, I'm not too concerned with it. Plus, you know, I've heard a lot of the lore in talk and passing, so that's quite all right. But I'm enjoying my run. We're at the first 25, and it's
I appreciate it. I do find as a reader, it's really hard to read comics that are 20, 30 years old. It really is an experience of its time for the most part, especially monthly superhero books. I mean, there are some that stand out and stand apart from that thinking, but for the most part, you're never going to get the same level of interaction with a comic reading it 25 years later as you would if you read it once a month when it originally came out, because they were written for the way they were published. Nowadays, they're written for trade paperbacks, and you can read it that. You can read every single monthly book and see that. But back then, they really weren't. They were written for the month. And as a result, you had self-contained issues and two-part stories and three-part stories. We almost never see those anymore, right? And the pacing was very, very different. And I find it very challenging to go back and read older comics with the mindset of how we read them today. You know.
Understandable. The good news is we do this live stream literally once a month, so I am getting the monthly experience.
Oh, good.
and I am this
smart.
You know, Delvin and I are like the exact same age, so I grew up in this era, and let me just tell you, reading them now in 2023 as a 46-year-old man, they're incredible. It's a great read. You did a fantastic job.
I haven't reread them in a while. I got the two omnibuy now, and I'm gonna at some point sit down and read them all. It's been a while since I read the run, but I just flipping through the omnibus before the show today. I was just like, oh, look at this pacing. Yeah, look at this. Like I'm patting myself on the back.
You're like, yeah,
egomaniac. Yeah, that worked. Yeah, that. But I more so from my standpoint, it's really about looking at Mark's art and going, oh, look at the storytelling, look at the pacing, look at the mood, look at everything. You know, it was such a pleasure. I was so lucky to have artists like Mark and Derek on the book. They're two very different artists, but each of them have tremendous strengths, respective individual strengths to their work. And Mark's strength at that time, and still to this day, was his storytelling. His storytelling is just flawless. He moves the camera around so smartly that it makes it so easy to script and dialogue the pages. And he understands how to move the camera around so that you're seeing different characters in as the main focus of different panels, which again makes the writer have to flow their dialogue so that everyone gets a fair crack in the story. Everyone gets an opportunity to chime in. There's never a background character who never really shows up. Some characters are quieter than others, but that's their personality. It's not because they were forced to be quieter by bad storytelling. You know what I mean? And Derek, as you'll see when you get to issue 26, especially as you see him hit his stride and in issues 30s and 40s, he brought such a level of emotional depth to the characters, such a level of character acting that it made those issues, which were a little darker and a little grungier, it really made those issues stand out for me as well. The first 2 years were golden for me because it was such a wonderful experience, but I'm pretty much just as happy with the second 2 years as well.
I remember, I believe that my introduction to New Warriors was through Amazing Spider-Man, because Mark Bagley guested on a book. I think it was 345. And I was like, I really like how he draws. And I was like, I found out he drew New Warriors. And then I liked the art. I liked the story. Then I went and picked up the back issues and went from there. So Mark Bagley is my personal favorite artist of all time, like unabashed favorite. So to go back and look at some of his stuff is just, it's been spectacular. And I remember when as of issue 25, he departed from the book. And I remember being really sad. And I, at first, only because I was pouting as a teenager, didn't like Derek's work. But then Derek came into his own, and it absolutely just became a must read. It was at the top of my read list at the time. And that was about the time Jarrod and I got to know each other in college. So
that's cool. That's really cool. And Mark left to go do Spider-Man, which was totally understandable. The difference between doing a team book on a monthly basis and getting to do a solo character, much less the character he grew up reading and wanting to draw. There was no ill will. There was nobody begrudging anybody. I mean, I'm still really mad at Greg Capullo to this day for leaving X-Force, but I was never mad at Mark for leaving. I say that jokingly because Greg's a great guy. There was never any animosity toward Mark leaving. This is Danny pilfering an artist from one book to draw another book he was editing, which was Spider-Man. Like, Mark Bagley's drawn more Spider-Man issues than anybody on the planet Earth. Right, so more power to him for that. He wasn't going to get a chance to draw more New Warriors issues than anyone on the planet Earth.
Jarrod, do you want to read one more question before we should probably talk about 25 and not keep everybody?
I do want to ask. I'm going to cheat and ask 2 more questions. One, because I got to ask a self-serving question. Because I am an inker myself on comic books. I got to say. I notice inkers, which not a lot of people do, but I gotta say Larry Malstead is probably, especially teamed up with Mark Bagley, has got to be a top 5er for me. I think he's just about perfect on that. Did you get to work with Larry much, or was that mostly Mark working with Larry?
Yeah, inking is usually not something that the writer is generally engaged with. I mean, I talked to Larry and saw him if he came to the offices and loved what he was doing. Look, I lobbied strongly to get Larry on the book. I wanted Larry on the book before the book even started. I was a huge fan of his from his work at DC on Giffen. I thought that he would bring a really slick polish to Mark's pencils, which can be a little scratchy. And I thought that a polished look was important on a team book with young characters, because if you have scratchy ink lines on scratchy pencils on young characters, all of a sudden those young characters look old, and I didn't want that. I was not a big fan of Al Williamson's inking on the first 2 issues. I say this understanding Al Williamson was an effing art god, okay? He was, and a phenomenal, wonderful human being. Al was so ridiculously talented. It should go without saying. That doesn't mean that he's right for every penciler or right for every book. And he wasn't right for Mark on that book. I think he would have done a great job on Mark on Spider-Man or something like that, but he wasn't right for Mark on New Warriors. So I was more than happy when Al wasn't going to do anything after issue 2. It's not like he got fired. He just agreed to help Danny out with the first couple issues. So when Larry got the opportunity, I just knew. It's just, it's one of these things. You get this gut feeling for what's right for a book. It doesn't happen all the time. So when it does, you really end up appreciating. I knew Larry was going to be right for Mark's pencils. I knew Larry was going to be right for the book. And he absolutely was. I'm stunned, quite frankly, even now, 20 years later, after the fact. I'm stunned by how little work he ended up getting as his career went along. I don't know whether it was by his choice or just by the industry's choking talent out sometimes. But Larry was such a good inker, and he just kind of stopped getting work. And I never, ever understood that to this day, because when you're not inside the offices, you really don't have a feel for the pulse of what people are saying or what people are liking or disliking or why. So you hear of someone like Larry not getting work, you're like, huh, what? There's a bunch of guys from that time period who drew really strong superhero work who just fell out of favor in the aughts. And maybe it's because they were really good, solid superhero artists that weren't getting work. Guys like Stephen Butler and Kevin West, these were just good artists. But it wasn't the style and sensibility that a lot of books were leaning towards in the aughts.
Makes perfect sense. I'll grab one more from try to get one from at least everybody. Some people ask multiple questions. Try to get one from at least everybody. Tony asks a good one. He needs to know, were there plans for Speedball to ever gain control of his powers?
No, I don't think so. I think it really would have drastically changed who he was. I had enough plans to drastically change what we thought of him. And I hinted at some of that right before I left the book, and then they abandoned that storyline because nobody wanted to do it but me. It was Speedball's anatomy lesson, a la Swamp Thing and Alan Moore. And nobody wanted to do that after the fact. So I don't want to give too much away because it's issue 50 we're done. But I had planned on the second the second 50 issues, like 50 to 100, to be the evolution of Speedball's powers and Firestar's powers as well. In a lot of ways, they were going to get quite a bit more focus in the second 50 issues, because I felt that Night Thrasher and Nova and Namorita and Marvel Boy had gotten a lot of focus in the first 50 issues. So the second 50 was going to lean a little more towards Speedball and Firestar, probably Silhouette as well. And if Turbo was going to be in the book more often, which I originally wanted her as well. Too many characters I like. That was the problem. I didn't. The reason I wanted a spin-off book is because I liked all the characters so much. I didn't not want to write any of them. So I didn't want to write any of them out. You know, there's a difference between writing a character out for a few issues because you know what your cycle is going to be, and then or just writing them out. You know, I didn't want to see the book without some of these characters for 12, 20 issues. You know.
Makes sense. Delvin, back to you, sir.
Yep. Absolutely. And so we're going to cover New Warriors 25 today, Fabian. Obviously, you know, you're welcome to stick around if you want to hear two guys wax poetic about one of your works of art. But
no, I am actually going to have to bug out because I have to walk the dog tonight. I wasn't originally supposed to walk the dog, but now I have to. You see her? There she is. She's sitting down on the couch.
She's probably not happy.
She's literally staring at me.
I believe you have responsibilities.
I thought that someone else was going to walk it tonight, but they can't. So I have to do it. And besides which, I don't want to hear you guys like criticizing or you know, like ripping me to shreds.
No, we haven't done that in like 3 or 4 episodes.
I meant for that to be a vowel, damn it, not a consonant.
Before you go, though, I mean, we absolutely have to give you the opportunity to, promote anything that you might want to promote at this time.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Or anything, of course.
These 2 books are out right now. They're my first 2 novels. They're same characters in them. They're sarcastic suburban murder mysteries. Suburban Dicks was the first book. It was nominated. It's from Putnam Publishing. It was nominated for an Edgar Award, which is the Mystery Writers of America, for best first novel by an American author. It's really good. It's got a whole bunch of good quotes on it. The second book, which is kind of a sequel, is called The Self-Made Widow. That came out in 2022. They're both available in hardcover and paperback now. They're both really good, and I'm working on a couple new novels right now because I discovered prose. Not that I discovered prose late in life, but I finally discovered I'm capable of writing it late in life. All the attempts I had made before I threw out because I just hated them, like a shrieking middle school child yelling over emotionally about this is terrible, throwing it out. And I started writing this in late 2017 through 2018, and the further I went along, the more I said, hey, you know what? This isn't awful. This isn't terrible. Then I escalated slowly to this doesn't suck as bad as I thought it was gonna. Then I got to the point where other people were telling me this is pretty good, and that changed my thinking on my ability to write prose. And I learned enough as I got older that I was finally able to do it. So it's something I like so much that I want to do a lot more of it now than other kinds of writing, mostly because I've done the other kinds of writing for so long. This is still pretty fresh and new to me. So I'm working on a couple new things right now in prose form. So I hope you go check it out. And I'll also have a image comic coming out, my first image comic ever, co-writing with Kurt Busiek. The book is called Free Agents, being drawn by Stephen Mooney. I cannot tell you when it's going to come out because we have zero clue when it's going to come out. But we are working on it now. So I don't think it'll be by the end of this year. Maybe it'll be by the beginning of next year. But keep an eye out for it because it's really kind of the only thing I'm mostly doing in comic writing, called Free Agents from Image Comics. Coming eventually to a store near you. That's the best way I could say it. And I hope readers give it a check. Okay.
Sounds great.
Fantastic. Great. Did I mispronounce your last name earlier?
I have no idea. I never pay attention. How do you pronounce it?
I thought it was Nicieza all this time.
Right.
Was that incorrect?
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
right.
All right. Cool. All
The
right.
way I've come to say it is in Spanish, it's Fabian Nicieza. In English, it's Fabian Nicieza, and in American, it's usually Fabian Nicieza. So there you go.
Well, Fabian, thank you so much for coming on to
My
the show.
pleasure,
We
guys.
appreciate
I'll come
it.
back anytime. It's a lot
Absolutely.
of fun.
I dropped you the hint, Delvin,
All
because
right.
I told you were going to forget. It's on the bottom of the screen. I promised you'd forget.
I did.
I'll come back anytime, guys. All right, it'll be my pleasure. This was a lot of fun.
All right.
All right, sir.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Remy, let's go out.
Mhm.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Yep. Bye.
Missed it.
You
missed
tried.
it.
You tried, Jarrod. He had to walk his dog. That was the most important thing. But the cool thing about that is, like, I mean, well, one, we didn't screw that pooch, so we have an opportunity to get him back. And two, like, we can always ask a little bit later. But
That's true.
ladies,
and as far as not pooch screwing, it's pretty impressive for us.
yeah. You know, I mean, like the pooch was there, you know, turned up, and we were like, no. Pet, feed him some treats. we didn't screw it. We didn't screw the pooch. All right, let us start. Let's see what my boilerplate, and we could get into this. Come Out to Play is a chronicling of the 1990 series, The New Warriors. The first volume of New Warriors ran 75 issues. Jarrod and I will cover all of this first volume as I rediscover my love for the series, help Jarrod find his, and we share our love and joy with the listening audience. Grab your skateboards and bucket helmets. Let's play. We are going to talk about New Warriors issue 25. Cover credits go once again to Mark Bagley and Larry Malstead. And Jarrod's going to show it, and we're going to talk about it. Auburn Elvis, while Jarrod's bringing that up, is saying, Auburn Elvis is saying, wait, there's more? Yes, we haven't talked about the book. Of course there's more. There she is.
There it is. The I did it. I had a little trouble, but there's the cover. What am I supposed to be doing?
You can talk about it if you want to.
Describing the cover. Right. We do a show. I got it. All right. This is a very 1990s because it's die cut cover. It's primary because it has two levels really, but it's primary level. The one you would see on the spinner rack is the New Warriors number 25, and it's got a black background. We've talked about that before. We've seen a cover like that before. I'm trying to remember when it was. It was 22 and 23 and 20, you know what, 24 had anyway, it's got a black background like all the other ones did. There is no corner box this time, but the whole cover is kind of corner box, and by that I mean it is headshots of Silhouette, Firestar, Speedball, Nova, Dark, Hawk, Night Thrasher, Rage, Neighborita, and Marvel Boy. I got them all. Episode 25.
Yes, you did.
It's all a floating heads thing. The New Warriors logo is a light blue with a white background, and there's a cover blurb that says nothing but the truth conclusion. I think I described it.
You did. And, you know, to those at home, like, I know it's hard to see, but the die cut, if you open it on the inside, has a pretty cool image. You've got Ty in the upper left there doing her stuff. In about the middle, you've got the folding circle there. You got Night Thrasher's head. And you have on the far right of the cover, the New Warriors. All of them as described just in an action pose. So that is what makes it die cut. There we go.
That's half the fun. That's gonna play great on the podcast, on the audio version.
So on the audio version, just so you know, Jarrod stuck his head in the hole that was created in the die cut cover where Night Thrasher was. Jarrod with his fake mustache and all. So yes,
fake, sir.
Absolutely.
This is homegrown.
Oh, sorry. Homegrown mustache there. All right. Man, we're not in a hurry, but we'll speed it up somewhat and say, since we've talked about it, inside and out. We can rate the cover here on Come Out to Play 1 to 10. Nightsticks, truncheons, as our buddy Ezra told us how to pronounce correctly. Jarrod, what would you rate the cover? And you can either, what do you want to do? Do you want to rate just this cover alone, or do you want to rate the cover and the die cast?
I mean, all right, we'll do it in two. I would say if it's just this cover, the static image we're seeing, the one you'd see on the spinner rack, I'd give that a solid 9. I really like the headshots. I know I'm a homer for inkers now, but Malstedt just we all know Bagley's going to draw great heads. The Malstedt inking is what leaps out to me on this. And then if you want to count like the poster worthy work that is the inside and inside back cover, it kind of wraps all the way through. This is a 10. So 9 if you're just looking at spinner rack, 10 the moment you realize it's a die cut, especially in the 90s when you pulled this off. You know, that was the era of the embossed cover or the glow in the dark Ghost Rider head cover, which still might be the coolest gimmick cover of the 90s. But this is up there. This is super sweet. So I'd say 9 to 10 when you open it.
And heck, at least it got to a point in the 90s where, I mean, it'd be like issue 73 of a book, and it's like gold embossed, super die cut, and they were doing it really just to boost the sales of that issue. And the issue itself didn't have meaning. Well, this one does. It's issue 25. It's the end of Nothing But the Truth storyline, which was a seminal storyline in New Warriors lore. So I'm actually with you with how you rated it. I love the first cover. I do give it a 9. And it's cool because not only were the heads accurately drawn, but like if you even knew anything about the book, you knew literally everyone on the cover based off of how they were drawn. They were drawn so well. And then the inside of the cover is phenomenal. Like not only because of the die cut, but then like just so it didn't get in the way, they reprinted it again in the back of just to let Bagley have his kind of send off of the book plus Malstead. So absolute chef's kiss. Wonderful, wonderful covers.
I missed who said it in the chat. My spider sense says it might have been Elvis. It was Elvis. He mentioned something that I noticed too when I looked it up on Marvel Unlimited. On the digitals, for some reason, I guess they maybe just scanned this because there's a black space where Night Thrasher is supposed to be on the Marvel digitals. It's weird.
That is weird. Go figure. I guess it's just one of those things. But,
I guess maybe I don't know. That's weird.
You found the right copy, and I appreciate that. It's that extra level of detail that you put in. I enjoy it so much.
That's what I do.
It is. And what you also do is read the cover credits. So could you do that, please?
I guess. This is New Warriors issue number 25. Its on sale date was May 26, 1992. Its cover date was July of 1992. Its cover price was $2.50. The story is by Fabian Nicieza. Feels like he was just here.
Yeah,
Pencils was Mark Bagley. Inks is Larry Mulstock. Colors was Joe Rosas. Letters was Joe Rosen. Haha, they tried to trick you. Editor was Danny Fingeroth. And of course, we got that from Mike's Amazing World. I think it is about time for you to give us a synopsis.
It is. You see how I put the banner up for you?
I saw it. I was like, what the what? And I'm going to change it.
Come on. Come on. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. The title of this book is Justifiable Homicide. All of the S hits all of the fan as Marvel Boy faces his day of reckoning in the courts, and Night Thrasher and the Folding Circle learn all of the brutal truth from the source, that source being Ty. In order to stop Ty, will Dwayne cross the line that no superhero should ever cross? And so now Jarrod brings up scans from the book. We talk about said scans from a double-sized New Warriors 25.
I was about to say, I got more than a few this time. And I know we're kind of going along with the interview anyway, so we can be brief. And I'll give you an example of such. I did the first page just in case Fabian stayed so he could see his name in the book. So that's why page 1. But it's a great drawing, a great face drawing of Ty. by Mark and Larry.
The one thing that I noticed from the book is you see how feral she looks. I mean, she has fangs now, and I think that came, what like it's like her true nature plus being like by the well and stuff like that. So like, yeah, like it showed like she was like just full out crazy at this point. No more hiding it whatsoever. Yeah,
she was over by the wishing well to kiss and tell.
Butterfly tree.
All right. I am not moving along briskly. Okay. The next one, I'm clearly going to pick the double page spread, which we're going to have to lean way, way over. I'm here. I swear I am. But anyway, double page spread is sort of the if you think of this as a serial, like we cover in the Batman serials, the Flash Gordon series, it's like where we left off last time, folks. And it's like, basically the New Warriors and the Folding Circle, which meets in the basement of the church every Thursday night at 6:30. They took on Ty and they're not doing well.
Not well at all. And you gotta think this is one of those that Bagley, we've talked about this before where Bagley showed up to work and it's just like, man, I get to draw a cool freaking splash page. And you got Ty, and she's got the whole tentacles thing going, and literally every character that was in the temple gets to be on that screen. And it's a delight to look at. It's an absolute delight. Maybe not for Silhouette. Silhouette isn't doing so good. And Ty she a bad grandmother. You're supposed to do that to your own granddaughter. That ain't right. So but the art itself, man, and I do love. There are a couple of declarations of love in this book, and this was the first one where, like, I don't know if Night Thrasher has ever admitted that he loved Silhouette, but he did. He did here. He was under duress, and he fully admitted he's like, I love her. Yes, I do. Stop hurting her, and then put a boot upside grandma's head, which was well deserved. So yeah, great artwork, great story points.
It's hard to make beating on old ladies look cool, but there we have it. Okay, so I picked this page just because it's sort of the next beat of the story. They all go into full attack mode, and then they kind of all go into full retreat mode. But it's another great page of art by Mark Bagley and Larry Malstead, and colors too. Everybody did a good job. And so anyway, it's the next phase of the fight. They sort of all kind of make their second attack, and they're about to make their strategic retreat. I'll pass it to you.
Don't have anything much to add to that, so I will go to the comments there. I'll be a little bit vain. John Beatty says it looked like I've been lifting. I'm pumped up, so yeah, I'm just gonna be vain and
I'll
put
see if I can scroll your OnlyFans banner at the bottom here. www.nevergonnahappen.com.org. Jason Lady says Auburn LOL looks like she's turning into a werewolf. Excuse me. So Auburn Elvis had to mention something about that too. Yeah, because Auburn Elvis says Ty has mad fangs, and she did because she had just gone completely feral at that point. So yep. There's a good one for you.
Auburn Elvis also says, wait, is her red beam power tying them up? Is that why she's named Ty? Probably not. I tell you what, like maybe we can bring Fabian back just to ask that question and then let him go walk his dog again.
And even this is a good one too, because even our crappy rendition, he got it. John Beatty realized that we were doing Terrence Trent Darby, which he spelled properly, by the way.
Correct. Yes.
Well, John's on fire in the chat today. All right. Let's bring another page. Unless you got another comment.
No, man, go for it.
All right, another page. All right, checking back in with the courthouse story. We get a little character beat moment between Firestar and her dad. He seems very supportive, which is sort of the opposite of what we're seeing in the courthouse, because clearly, Marvel Boy has killed his father, and that's why he's in the courthouse. But I thought, now that he's not here, I can reiterate, I like the courthouse stuff better than the Dragon's Breath thing that's going on. Not that the Dragon's Breath thing is bad. It's just hard for my small mind to follow. I like the courthouse stuff. So anyway, we're checking in on that, and it's sort of a nice character moment with Firestar. And she admits her love in this page as well.
Yep. And it was an excellent juxtaposition that you caught too. That I don't know if I caught in my time and a half of reading it, of where, I mean, first of all, Dad showed up at the courthouse and she was like, "You knew?" And he was like, yeah, kind of. And
Papa's know everything.
Right. And then but immediately offered, he was there to support, not to chastise, thank God, not to, physically accost his daughter at any point of the way, just there to show support. And that was pretty cool. Jason Lady adds a great comment and says, Firestar's dad is right up there with the dad from 16 Candles, very supportive and non-judgmental. I know that's a tough place to be sometimes, being an older person looking at a younger version of yourself, but I totally agree with that.
I have 2 of those. All right, I'll pull up the next page. I selected this page because it was basically Left Hand kind of got to tell his origin. That's it. I don't know that it's, terribly important to what happens in the whole Dragon Breath thing, but we got, anytime we get to see a quick backstory, I figure I'm going to pull that page. So
I think it's somewhat important in that he was the leader of the Folding Circle. And I mean, it did buy him time from Night Thrasher, because they were like, Diego, the left hand, was like, "We need to kill Ty." And then they were like, "Well, why?" He's like, "Well, she's going to take all the power." And they're like, "Would you take all the power?" He's like, "Well, yeah."
You got to give props for an honest villain.
Yeah. And Night Thrasher was like, "So why don't we just kill you?" I got a story.
Travel with me back in time, if you will. All right. I'll grab us on next page. All right, back to the courthouse, where the prosecuting attorney pulls a stunt that would probably get any of this thrown out in court. Just ridiculous that she got away with this. But, it did very visually prove a point that Mr. Vance Astrovic can stop violence without hurting anybody. And that's absolutely what she wanted to prove. I don't know if pulling out a gun, pointing it, and pulling the trigger at somebody is allowed in a courtroom, but hey, it's comic books.
So, a couple of things. First, I want to read Scott's comment, Scott O'Neill, who says that support is cool, particularly because he was really not supportive of her when she first appeared and in her limited series. And says, you can see a bit of that in Firestar's fear of his reaction to her being Firestar again. Such a subtle but great character moment. So it's awesome that Fabian and company did the homework. This scene here, yeah, when I first read it, I was like, I think that this would be declared a mistrial immediately if this were to happen. Now, Fabian, it did rationalize it, where the judge was like, well, he didn't do anything that wasn't already established, so I'm going to let it stand, even though she was wildly out of pocket for doing what she did. A couple more things. One, the artistry, the story that was told. You remember Fabian mentioning how good Bagley is with the camera? That angle of her pulling out the gun and shooting, then Vance's reaction of how he reacted. And then, like, the question that she asked, I don't have it, so I got to squint, says, could Vance have used his powers to stop the father from killing him? And he wasn't answering that question by saying no, but it kind of was an answer. But then he stopped it with the telekinesis. Oh, primo storytelling. And then for Dreyfus to pull that stunt kind of is her completely making the case. Like, not only hers, but Foggy's. Like, because she had ultimate faith that Vance was not going to harm her. She had to. It's either that or she had a death wish, because what if Marvin would have been like, no!
There's blood everywhere in the courtroom.
Like,
Huh.
I guess he can't control his powers. So there were so many levels to that, like to this page, that I'm glad that you showed it, and that she got away with it. Boy, we talked about this before. Boy, like this is not Foggy Nelson's finest hour. Like this prosecuting attorney Dreyfus like took him out to lunch and ate his lunch. Like, is that your sandwich? Give me that sandwich. Just straight punked him. Yeah. So a couple of comments. Trey Black, thanks for coming, Trey. Says Foggy should have been granted that mistrial. That was so out of line. Agreed. And Scott says, love that middle panel being dialogue free. It makes it feel like a really awkward pregnant pause as everyone in the room processes what just happened. Yet another good point that you can pull so many just from that. Primo comic book storytelling for certain.
For certain. Next page, you get the tragic history of Cord.
Rough, isn't it?
It is rough. Yeah, I remember when we read this for Crusade Miss, and I didn't have the background on it that I do. It makes it more powerful now, but still, speaking of powerful, it's that last image, like just the murder with the tears in the eyes is it's good storytelling, man.
Yeah. Auburn Elvis, we're about to answer the question that he asked, said, is what Ty did to young Dwayne the reason Emma Frost couldn't probe his mind? Basically, yes. Because even Dwayne at that point, he knew his parents were murdered, but he didn't know why. He could not recall why. Even in the Forever Yesterday storyline, his memory was still clouded. So Ty did a number on him. Like whatever she did, whatever powers that she wielded, she completely fogged his mind of this particular memory right here.
She also fogged Foggy's mind on how to be a good defense attorney. Oh, so just this is this one and two more. The guilty verdict. Well, he was found not guilty of murder, but he was found guilty of what? Manslaughter or
negligent homicide.
Negligent homicide. If that's not a rapper's name right now, it needs to be. In fact, I'm going to revitalize my rap career. I'm going by negligent homicide. But no, great moment. Not just because of, you had sort of the high of the not guilty on murder, but guilty on negligent homicide. And then I really like Vance's sort of maturity about it. He's like, no, we're good. This is what I deserve. I think he knew deep down that, this is what he deserved, because we've joked about how Dreyfus, she was winning me over. And I think this might be the right call, because, could he have stopped his dad without killing him? I think we've proved that, yes, he could have. I think it was an emotional, emotions got involved. And I just completely identify with his acceptance of this moment. I don't identify with his fashion sense or why he has to dress like the Riddler, but I do identify with his acceptance of the moment.
I agree. It did show a maturity. It's tough, right? His dad was beating the crap out of him. And any number of times that he was powerless to defend himself. And then he kind of warned him, like, look, I have enough power now to like prevent you from doing this. Don't hit me again. And his dad continued to just be a horrible human being. So like looking back, I'll ask you the question. I think you've already answered it. Do you think that Vance could have done what he did? I could have stopped his dad without killing him?
I do think he could have. So that's the simple answer.
I think he could have too. And that is the simple answer. And that's why the verdict makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, I think that Foggy could have argued more to the point about it being like him being so emotionally distraught that he was put to a level of duress that he had never been put to before. And I don't think that Foggy argued that point enough. I can't even in hindsight get mad at the verdict, but at the same time, it's one of those like, I wouldn't have been terribly upset had he walked. But one of the things that made it so powerful is that he did not walk. And that this wasn't just, oh, did you think everything was going to be wrapped in a nice, neat bow? Surprise, D-head.
He's not guilty.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is, man. Scott O'Neill, 2 points, always insightful, says he Night Thrasher couldn't remember any of their faces, so she erased not only that Court was a killer, but also in a way took his parents away from him twice, first via murder, then memory erasure. That's an evil person. And then he says, Vance is a cockeyed idealist. Of all the warriors, he was always going to be the one who would be convinced that he deserved this verdict. That's particularly clear when you consider that Thrash basically commits the same crime later in this issue and never even gets a visit from social services asking about his missing housekeeper. So, and Trey Black adds, exactly, Delvin, just to the points that I was mentioning before about Marvel Boy, says, also add the massive injuries he suffered in the previous issues. Very good point. And his control was shot. Yeah. I mean, the man was beat up to all get out. Yeah, Gideon. It was Gideon who had just completely rearranged his face and broke his
teeth and stuff.
Yes, pulled his teeth out through his lip. Ow. Just completely mangled him. And then he comes home and his dad just immediately starts whooping on him. That plus additional trauma. Whew. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm still surprised. I know we could get hung up on this all day, but like Foggy never really played the like self-defense, like fear for his life. I mean, there has been many I don't mean to be stereotypical, but it's the most common occurrence. There's been many a woman who's been beaten by her husband and she's killed him like with a gun or a knife in self-defense and you know, not guilty. That to me, that was the strongest defense here. And I know that gender goes the other way. I just picked the most stereotypical version of it, but you know, you get what I'm saying. Like, why was
I do get what you're saying.
Not, you know, brought into it should have been straight up self-defense. I thought this man might kill me. I was state of all these injuries. My body's already frail. I don't know if I can literally take this beating. I don't know if I can. And God help him if he touches my mom, which was his dad beating his mom too? I want to say he was.
He was getting close to it because his mom's kind of like stop and he got grabby aggressively. Yeah, Arnold Astrovic, not a good man. I don't think the world is worse off comic book wise without him being there. Let's just say that.
All right. Well, we've definitely poked holes in the Foggy Nelson. Somebody, I think it was Trey Black, says he loves Foggy Nelson in the chat. He said, but by all means, drag him on this one. I love Foggy too. He's like one of the most lovable characters in Marvel. You know, just didn't swing the right swing on this one.
No, and I'm going to add. What's your next page? I just want to see it.
10. It won't. Oh, it's because we were on 10. Oh, it's the last page. It's the last page.
Okay. So I want to, Scott mentions a point and I was going to mention it too. Scott says, got to put a bit of respect on Firestar in this part of the issue too. She was powering up and ready to burn all the world down when they announced the verdict. And Jason Lady says, mad restraint on Angel's part here. Yeah. Like her eyes were glowing red. She was like, you're not going to let them take you, are you? And like Firestar is pretty much like kind of a goody two shoes. And she was like, they're about to take my man to jail. I will set this courtyard on the fire. She was ready to do it. So
I'm glad that
was a cool little moment.
I'm glad Vance had the emotional intelligence to literally cool that moment and cool her down. Because I mean, clearly she was in an emotional state. Her emotional intelligence was out the window. Because I mean, what's the next level? You burn down the courthouse, and then what? The Avengers are probably looking for you or something like that. So, you know, kudos to Vance for realizing that the play right now is acceptance. Accept the situation right now. Foggy, well, he means accept it, period. Foggy's like, accept it now, we'll appeal. Vance is like, I've seen what kind of lawyer you are. I'm going to take a pass on that.
At the appeal, Foggy's like, did you know that Vance is a murderer? I mean, a good person.
Vance Astro murderer. I'm sorry, Astro.
He didn't murder his dad. Don't say murder his dad. Stupid. Anyway, last page.
I took is the wrap up page. It's first of all, artistically from Bagley, he does a really good job. Malstead, of course, with the inks. My favorite part about it is the perfect expression that Bagley and Malstead get on this face. Sad, tired, fulfilled. 3 emotions at once. Perfectly rendered.
Relieved.
Yes.
And
just a hint of a smile on the one lip, the tear coming down, the determined eyes. It's like 3 emotions in one drawing. That's hard to do. Kudos to the art team.
And before that, it looked like, an all is lost moment. And there was discussion through the book. Diego Casillas, the left hand, said, we got to kill him. Kill her. And Vance and the Warriors were like, we don't kill. We're not naive enough to say it would never happen, but like, we're going to go into this. We are not going to kill her unless we absolutely have to. And they were basically pushed to the brink. All of them were going to go into the void, and she was going to take all the power. And so Dwayne pulls out that gun from his
minute. I know for a fact.
Did you have another page?
I know I brought that page in. Oh, I see what happened. Somehow I accidentally brought in page 9, or what I call page 9 twice. Excuse me. I don't have it. I just inhaled part of my mustache.
Got time to inhale fake mustaches. You ain't got time to put that page up.
I accidentally named the stupid file. Anyways, so yeah, that was a big moment.
Yeah, it was a huge moment, and I kind of laughed a little bit because he was going to sacrifice himself. It's like, yes, I'm going to take out Ty, but it's going to mean the death of me too. But I'm okay with that. And then they're falling, and left hand is like, no, you've doomed us all. And Delvin comes in like, nah.
Oh, I was dying because it was like Night Thrasher. He did cross the line. He pulled a gun and straight up shot her. Boom, dead. Right. I don't have beef with that because that's kind of where they were at the time. And like I said, no one's looking for his housekeeper. But I thought it was particularly funny that Nova saved only Night Thrasher. I think he could have got them both.
I do too. I do too. Nova straight up. I think he could have. And he was like, nah. You can't prove that, can you?
I've seen Batman catch 2 people falling, and he can't fly.
Yeah, I remember that moment, and I thought it was an absolute cold-blooded moment to where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna save the guy I know. I'm not worried about the ones I don't, and I'm gonna dip out. I can't blame him there. That's all I'm going to say. I won't say that he made the right decision. I won't say he made the wrong decision. I will pull a Chris Rock and say, I understand.
Absolutely.
So we have gotten to the end of the Nothing But the Truth storyline. We've gotten through the first 25 issues of New Warriors. do you have any overall thoughts before we can get into the last few things in a second? But we've gone a little bit long, so indulge us a little bit longer. Well, first, I'm going to say I'm glad I got to share this with you, and we got to share this with each other because that was really cool.
Yep.
And I introduced this book to the Longbox Crusade. This book, New Warriors 25. And I did it without any context or whatever, and it ranked pretty good. But now you have the context of 2 years worth of history before you reread issue 25 of the New Warriors. What do you think?
This is dumb. No, I'm glad I have the context to get up to 25. Now I can, I look back over a 25 issue run. Essentially 2 years, a little more. And I always had that feeling that we just had confirmed on this episode that I was like, this feels like Marvel is trying to tap into that Teen Titans thing because Teen Titans was wildly popular at the time. And, had he stuck around, I would have made it very clear to Fabian that it's not trying to put him down to say it's like Teen Titans. I'm not saying he's stealing from Teen Titans. He's doing his own thing. With his own characters, and I totally respect it. So I've enjoyed the journey. I've enjoyed the art, especially. Bagley is a master. When you put him with Larry Malstead, it's like perfection. And I've enjoyed it. I look forward to it. The biggest revelation I had tonight was that Fabian leaves the book at 53. So I didn't know there was going to be a time when that you wouldn't be on it. But we'll get to there when we get there. But overall, this is a book I passed back in the day. Clearly, this is me going through it the first time. Just, probably more than to do with limited funds and just, buying what I was buying Spider-Man. Spider-Man was like the core thing I was buying. And Batman, probably Spider-Man and Batman was the core of what I was reading. Just didn't get on this train. And now I have the experience. Excuse me. Inhaled a bit of mustache again. Now I have the experience. And better for it. It's just a neat corner of Marvel that I'm happy to explore. Not just with you, but everybody in the chat, the friends we've made along the way, if you will. You guys have really made us even more special. So thanks to you for starting the journey. And thanks to the fans that came along. It's always with the neat comments and the insights and the probing questions, and we just have a great chat community. So everything about this 25 issue adventure has been pretty cool.
Few comments from that awesome listening audience. Trey Black said, quote, "I'm not going to kill you, Lefty, but I don't have to save you." And Auburn Elvis says, "It solves two problems at once." Hard to disagree. That's all I'm saying. And Jason Lady with a wonderful comment. Congratulations, guys. Huge milestone, and it's been immensely fun and entertaining. I've loved interacting with you guys and the good folks on here. Here to that. And New Warriors Talk says, "Glad you went long so I can make it, dude. Man, we're glad you're here. Like flat out. Since we're gushing here, flat out, the Twitter feed, New Warriors Talk, and then being invited to the New Warriors thread or the Facebook page. I never would have been able to land or talk to Fabian Nicieza without you, and wouldn't have been able to share him with Jarrod and the rest of the listening audience. So I'm truly humbled and thankful to have met you. And if you know nothing about New Warriors, if you follow New Warriors Talk on Twitter, man, the positivity that he gives to literally the entire Warriors universe is epic. It truly is. New Warriors Talk also says, "This was my first superhero comic that I read regularly. Totally defined and established so much for me. It's been magical to see you two relive it." So that's just absolutely awesome. Jarrod, you and the mustache okay over there?
I'm not going to make it. This is my last episode.
You know the phrase, dial mute.
Dial mute. I think we all knew that it was the mustache that was going to get me.
If you want to go into your part, now is the time.
I think it's time for Ultimate Warrior, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
I think I have a banner for that. There it is. All right, you know the deal. Who's your ultimate warrior for this episode who shined bright like a diamond? And who are you ultimately worried about for this issue? So let's start with warriors. Who are you most proud of?
Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna default and say the entire Warriors team, because they had Night Thrashers, well, in two different parts. Firestar was there for her man. She could have gone and off gallivanting for an adventure, but she did the right thing and stayed there for a man, which is cool. And it was also cool that the Warriors went through extreme means, hijacked a Quinjet, which got stolen, by the way. That was a hilarious moment in the book where they're like, I think the folding circle ran off with our jet, and big, strong, hulking Rage was like, meep. That was funny. But it was cool to see the Warriors go through extreme means to go and find Dwayne and help save the day. Because without Nova, who, like, surely this was an intentional juxtaposition. You had Night Thrasher that was falling into the void, and it was Nova that came and got him. And that's how we started this whole adventure, where Night Thrasher was the one that dropped Rich Rider off of that rooftop. So what do you think? Who was the ultimate warrior for you?
I gotta go with Nova for that. I mean, I don't recommend it, letting people die, but his comedic timing was excellent. It ain't nobody going to miss the left hand. And, you know, he's one of those guys. It's a Marvel book and he fell into a magical pit. So is he really gone? Is he really? Yes, I suspect we'll see him again.
All right. And let's see. Auburn Elvis, Ultimate Warriors, anybody but Foggy. Seriously? That the waiter that didn't stop Dwayne's parents from getting killed was more heroic than Foggy. Scott O'Neill says Warrior has to be Thrash. Trey Black seconds that, and New Warriors Talk thirds it. Says that was the conclusion of what was really his story, and he gave a runner-up to Vance Astrovic, who says his no appeal has stayed with me to this day. We discussed that a little bit earlier, New Warriors Talk, because Jarrod agreed that was just a strong, mature moment for him. And that leaves us with the second half. The second half is who is the ultimate warrior? Who are we most worried about? And I have a tie because, I mean, the two main players in this book, this last 7-8 issues really were Night Thrasher and Marvel Boy. And I'm worried about them both. I don't know what's going to happen next with Dwayne. Like, how is he going to take this heavy news of hearing what happened to his parents? And of course, what's going to happen with Marvel Boy? We don't know. He's going to jail. Is that going to change him? What's going to happen there? What do you think, Jarrod?
Strangely enough, I'm most worried about Firestar. You know, Auburn Ellis mentioned the chat a little while ago, and he wasn't wrong. I mean, Marvel Boy is going to go to jail, but it's not jail like most people. He didn't have a lot to worry about because, I mean, who's going to mess with him? I mean, no one's going to mess with him. They doesn't want messing with him, right? He can protect himself. He's not weak. So his time will be easy. I'm more worried about Firestar because she had that overly emotional reaction that would have been really bad if she let herself go on that. But she didn't. But it just seemed, you know, with that scene with her dad, I feel bad for her because I too have read the miniseries that Scott mentioned, and her life hadn't been the easiest. And it's like, I felt bad because, like, as soon as she got something good and reliable in her life, and now it's going to be gone in a very painful way. I mean, he's not dead, at least, but you see what I'm saying. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. I was feeling the hardest for Firestar.
Jason Lady echoes your sentiments. Says so hard to be the person standing by and watching this stuff happen to a loved one. Trey Black says he's worried about Vance. Hands down, he went through the ringer. New Warriors Talk says Vance for sure. He can't really go to jail, can he? And runner-up, Rage. He is in trouble. That is true. That man is in trouble. And let's see. Yeah, that's it for the comments. And so I guess we can rate New Warriors 25. It's a 10. For me anyway. I cannot speak for Jarrod. It is an absolute 10 for me, because as much as you're ever going to have a closing of a book, like, you know, if you're doing that omnibus like they did, you're going to start with 1 and you would end this with 25 and you close that book. And while it does leave some questions, 90% of the issues that were going on in the first 2 years of the book were answered in a very definitive way. And Fabian plus Mark plus Larry plus the Joes plus Danny Fingeroff, they put together a solid run for 2 years. And I would be remiss if I gave it anything but a 10. But Jarrod, the floor is yours.
You know, honestly, I would, if I was just reading this because I picked it up out of a dollar bin or whatever, or as I did many of these issues on a quarter bin, huzzah, I probably would have given it a 9. But you know how Jason gives that extra candy cane for enthusiasm? I'm giving it a 10 because of the journey that I've taken with you and our friends in the chat. Like, it has elevated it to a 10 because, as again, no secret, I like the courtroom stuff. I found the Dragon's Breath thing to be a little Claremontian, which you know isn't my bag, but it wasn't too bad. It was still entertaining. So I think independently, I still would have said, "Oh, this is very good," and given it a 9. Like, this is a solid book. But thanks to you guys and the guys in the chat, has just enhanced the experience. I'll give it the 10 with you.
Jarrod, did you write down names?
Of course. I might be dying because of fake mustache inhalation, but I still wrote everybody's name down.
Well, Jarrod wrote down everyone's name, and the reason for that is we did not announce this, but Jarrod, out of the kindness of his heart, is going to do a giveaway of, well, you know what? Why steal your thunder? Jarrod, take the floor, sir. Take the floor.
All right. I'm going to give away issues 18 through 25 to some lucky winner in the chat. So I have, so 18, 20 through 25. These are the, you know what, just to make these have more provenance. These are the books I read in preparation for these shows. If you want me to sign them for you, I will. But I have issues 18 to 25 is a nice little run. I think Delvin sent me some of them. I think some of them I found in that quarter bin. I had actually fully intended to give away even more of that run, but frankly, I can't find 1 through 17 anywhere in the room. So did I give them away earlier? I can't remember. But anyway, 18 through 25.
I don't think you did, but
I might have sent it to a Crusaders Club member at some point. I don't remember, but I do have, like I said, 18 through 25, which starts with the whole, it's kind of this whole arc. It's you know, Dwayne saying, "All right, Cord, what's going on with my company?" all the way to, you know, what happened. So it's pretty much that run.
How many names did you write down?
I did not put Pat Sampson on the list, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 12 people.
Okay. You want me to pick a number at random?
Yes, I do.
6.
Wait, 1, 2, 3. How appropriate. Who is our biggest fan in the chat who has never read any of these? Who always says I didn't read it? I've never read it. Kathy? I'm just here to support you guys.
Kathy?
Kathy.
Or my mom. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the most appropriate person to win it. The one who probably doesn't already own them. Everybody else here probably owns them.
That is awesome.
So Kathy,
that is so awesome.
18 through 25.
Jarrod, when you ask me for the money for that delivery, I will give you 0 complaints about it. How about that?
Don't believe you. Do not believe you. So, Kathy, you can read this last story arc at your leisure and then go back and re-listen to the podcast episodes. They'll make so much more sense. Or will they?
Or will they? I think they will. And I hope that you get more of an appreciation for it. And it's about time for us to wrap this up. I was so excited about Fabian being here. I saw Auburn Elvis mention it, and I thank you for doing it, Auburn Elvis. If you are watching this on YouTube and you haven't followed us yet, please follow. If you haven't liked this podcast yet, or this particular live stream, please like it. We would love to have more people not only just come onto this. We had great numbers tonight, by the way. Thank you so much for that. But please like and subscribe, and please tell a friend about this. We would love to grow our network and just really share the love and joy with more people who just like to hear about comic books like the New Warriors or any of the other stuff that we have on the Longbox Crusade. Please and thank you. That is the show, everybody. Please come back and join us for the next episode where we discuss New Warriors 26, where there's fallout from the Nothing But the Truth storyline, as you might imagine, as the Warriors try to break out Vance from going into the Clink. And we say hello to a new artist on the book, Derek Robertson.
He'll never do anything else.
Probably not. If you like to hear from us, I've already talked about it a little bit. Longbox Crusade, we're in a lot of places. YouTube, where you're watching this now. Please subscribe. We have both recorded and live content. Patreon, our Patreon membership starts at $1 a month. It gets you a lot of stuff like the free swag we just gave Kathy Bright. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you look up Longbox Crusade, you will find us. And we're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and most podcatchers. You can go old school, email us at contact@longboxcrusade.com. You can go older school and leave us a voice message about this podcast or any other that is scrolling across the screen now. And we already let Fabian give us his stuff. Go pick up his stuff, Suburban Dicks. I'm interested in the book because, heck, if he wrote as much good stuff as he did on New Warriors like he did, then I'm sure that his written prose in a novel form will be badass. Jarrod, you're a creator also, so tell them where they can find your stuff.
Thank you, sir. I'm at Yard Sale Artist on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my wares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. And you can come and see Delvin and I at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina this year. I'm also going to be at Dragon Con in Atlanta. I'm also going to be doing Infinity Con in Tallahassee. So those are some opportunities to come see me and my wares and just bask in my sparkling personality.
I mean, and we saw it tonight. I mean, it sparkled all over the place. I almost went and got sunglasses. It was that sparkling.
It's like Prince. You don't look him in the eye.
You can find me on Twitter at DEE_RAY1977. You can find me doing weightlifting stuff mostly on Instagram, Delvin Ray. It's either that or showing off my beard that Jarrod loves so much.
At least it doesn't try to kill you.
As much as I love his mustache, go grab those bottles, Jarrod. We're
also have mustaches.
The bottles have mustaches too. Everything has mustaches here. See you all next time. And remember, be a hero to someone, even if it's just to yourself. Till next time, New Warriors, come out to play. Yay. Night, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Appreciate it. We'll do another 25 issues.